If you're making your mental list of fantasy football players you do not want to be drafting in fantasy drafts this year, look no further because this is a list of players you should be avoiding in all of your drafts this year. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button because you don't have to be the best fantasy football player in the world, just better than all of the friends in your league, and that is a lot more manageable. And all of the information you need is going to be right here, and I appreciate all of you guys in this video. But let's jump into the first early round guy that I have been avoiding a lot this year so far, and that's Najee Harris. And he's going in an ADP of 12, and if you guys don't know what ADP is, it's just the average draft position, so pretty much what pick they're being drafted in fantasy football drafts. But my main issue about Najee isn't his talent, but it's more about his opportunity cost. And what I like to tell you guys all the time, and what I do for myself personally, is you want to make a solid base of safe guys in your first couple rounds and go more risky in the later rounds. And to me, Najee is one of the more risky running backs this early in the draft. Most of last season, he was extremely inefficient, and he's averaged under 4 yards per carry his entire NFL career, and only 6 yards per reception. And if you guys don't know, those numbers are absolutely atrocious. If it wasn't for him kind of clearing up his act towards the end of last season, he would be going so much lower in these drafts, and it's kind of clouding our judgment. In some of my other videos, I talk about Jaylen Warren. He might be a sneaky sleeper because honestly, he might take a little bit of this volume, not enough to make Najee a bad draft pick, but probably a little bit more than last year. We also have to be extremely grounded when drafting early round running backs on bad teams because history says that teams that are under 500 and losing teams don't put as much fantasy points up when it comes to the running back position. And it makes sense. If you can't move the ball, that's less fantasy points for everybody. But the opportunity cost at pick 12 is just one that I do not want to be risking. I would way rather have a more solid wide receiver or tight end at this spot. Now, I don't completely hate Najee this year. I think he actually is in probably a bit of a better situation with this offense improving this year, but he is just too early right now. If he keeps falling, I'll take a chance on him. But as of right now, I really haven't been drafting him in any of the drafts I've done this year. Another guy I have not been drafting so far this year is Travis Etienne. He's going at an ADP of 13, right behind Najee Harris. And this is a bit of a similar situation as Najee. His situation just is not the same as it was last year. This offense is improving, and they have a lot of mouths to feed now, especially with Calvin Ridley. I don't think a lot of people are factoring in the role that all these wide receivers and tight ends on this team are going to take, as well as Tank Bigsby, because he can have a decent role in this offense too. Travis Etienne had practically no competition in the backfield last year, but they still tried to find ways to get guys like James Robinson and JaMychal Hasty some touches in this offense. And if we're looking at Tank Bigsby, he is better than all of those guys that they tried to give touches to. Travis Etienne is also not effective in the pass game whatsoever, and I assume the entirety of that role will be for Tank Bigsby. But again, like Najee Harris, he will still put up fantasy points, but I feel like we're drafting him at his ceiling at an ADP of 13, and we're not really giving him a lot of room to fluctuate. I would just rather have a proven wide receiver or maybe even tight end at this round 1-2 turn. Keeping it on the running backs here, I'm also not too excited about Kenneth Walker this year. He's being taken as the RB15 right now, but he has dropped 10 draft spots over the past couple weeks. And it looks like people are starting to understand his situation is just not the same as it was last year. I still think his ADP of 51.7 is us drafting him at his ceiling. And it's not like the Seahawks are loyal to him in a sense. We saw last year that they tried to give complimentary backs like Travis Homer, Penny, and DJ Dallas work in this offense behind him. Luckily for Kenneth Walker though, they all got injured and he stayed the lead back here. But now they have Zach Charbonnet, who they drafted in the second round and is a beast. They also have McIntosh, who I assume will take all of the receiving work because he is an amazing receiver and was in college. And if these are the three running backs in this offense, I really think Kenneth Walker is going to take a step back here. Now, all of this information shouldn't scare you into completely avoiding Kenneth Walker this year, but we have to understand that the situation is not the same, and just because he did what he did last year doesn't mean it continues. Now, looking at a wide receiver I don't particularly like or understand the situation of is Christian Watson. Right now, he's going as the wide receiver 21 at an ADP of 39.4, and I really don't like this Jordan Love-led offense, and he's trending upwards in drafts still. But if you do trust the Packers offense enough to draft him at the 2-3 turn, why not just take Romeo Doubs a lot later in the drafts, in the 11th or 12th round? And don't get me wrong, Christian Watson is an extremely talented wide receiver, but again, we're drafting him at his ceiling. He's getting drafted before guys like Mike Evans and Marquise Brown, who are arguably in the same quarterback situation that he's in, but are way more proven and way more reliable. I'm just not placing my bets on this team, and I think he's an extremely risky option for the ADP that he's at right now. If he were to drop a considerable amount, I wouldn't hate it. But that is a quick list of the 4 players I am avoiding so far in these fantasy drafts that you need to keep an eye out for. And if you did get any valuable information from this, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos that will help you guys win leagues.